Well, hello and thank you all for joining me for today's NLPA Members Only webinar, Purchasing and Supply Management Salaries in 2017. I'll be turning over the reins to our presenter in just a moment, but I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items before we begin. Our NLPA member webinars have two parts. First will be the presentation, and then we'll follow with a question and answer session. Please feel free to submit your questions throughout the webinar by clicking on Next Level Purchasing Association in the Q&A section found in the lower right corner of your WebEx console. I will collect questions and our presenter will answer them at the end of the presentation. A frequent question that we get during these webinars is, how can I get a copy of the slide deck? Well, the slides and the on-demand replays for this and most other NLPA webinars are a benefit of the NLPA library. Access to the NLPA library is available to members who meet any of these three criteria. Number one, they are enrolled in the SPSM certification program. Two, they are currently certified as an SPSM and in good standing. Or three, they are currently enrolled in an all-access training program. If you meet any of those criteria, the slides are available to you in the NLPA library at this time. Also, audio quality is important. You're going to want to hear all of the fascinating salary statistics we'll be covering today. So to ensure the best audio quality, we recommend shutting down any non-essential programs if you are streaming the audio through your computer. Also, please take a moment to jot down the audio access information for dial-in audio. That information can be found in the registration confirmation email you received, and it was also posted in the chat area at the bottom right of your WebEx console. All right, with those items out of the way, it is truly my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Charles Dominick. If you've been a member of the NLPA for any amount of time, he is certainly no stranger to you. Charles is the founder of the Next Level Purchasing Association. He has authored most of the NLPA's online courses and is the mastermind behind the prestigious Senior Professional in Supply Management SPSM family of certifications, having been earned in over 100 countries around the globe. He heads up the development of the NLPA's annual Purchasing and Supply Management Salary Reports. These are groundbreaking and industry-leading pieces of research that are always unparalleled in the field by far. Charles is also co-author of the book, The Procurement Game Plan, Winning Strategies and Techniques for Supply Management Professionals. His articles and interviews have been included in countless supply chain publications, and his clients have had their post-training success stories featured in multiple magazines, including 2 cover stories in Supply and Demand Chain Executive. Before founding the Next Level Purchasing Association in 2000, Charles delivered great procurement results as an employee of the Kurt J. Lesker Company, U.S. Airways, and the University of Pittsburgh. He holds the SPSM, SPSM 2, and SPSM 3 certifications, as well as a bachelor's degree in business administration from Duquesne University. He has been named one of Supply and Demand Chain Executive's Pros to Know 9 times. Charles is also frequently recruited to deliver educational seminars throughout the U.S. and beyond. So it is my esteemed honor to turn over today's presentation to Mr. Charles Dominick.
Well, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, Megan, and good morning, good evening, or good afternoon to all of our attendees today. I know we have folks from all throughout the world wondering what are purchasing and supply management salaries doing in 2017? Am I being paid well? Am I being paid not so well? And so forth. And hopefully in the next hour, we will answer all of those questions and more. So let me take a bit of a twist and turn as we do each year that we reveal salary statistics. And let me start this off with an oddball type of question. We're going to be asking a lot of questions, answering a lot of questions, but here's an oddball type of question that you think may not have anything to do with purchasing and supply management salaries, but just may. That question is, what do you think of when you hear the word investing? Well, many people will react to that question by thinking of the stock market, perhaps making a lot of money by buying and selling stocks, or perhaps struggling to do so. The goal of investing is to put a resource like money forth in order to have a greater value of that or another resource in the future. If you think about it, careers are like investing. You put your time, effort, education, etc. forth in the hopes of making and having a satisfying amount of money in the future. And purchasing and supply management careers represent as much of an investment opportunity as any other career. In stock market investing, each stock produces a different return. Some stocks go way up in value and make their owners a lot of money over time. Others go up more modestly. Still others stay flat or even decrease in value over time. Stock values depend on the demand for those stocks, and demand depends on the value created by corporate performance. Like stocks, different careers produce different monetary results over time. Some professions see salaries rise dramatically over time. Other professions see more modest increases in salaries. The trajectories of salaries depend on demand for the professionals in the field, and demand for professionals depends on the value that those professionals create through their business performance. Now, let's talk about you and your purchasing and supply management career. If you've been in the field a while, you've obviously invested a lot of time in your career. You may have invested a lot of money in your career too if you funded your own education. Is your investment in your purchasing and supply management career paying off? Is the monetary value of your investment growing fast enough? I encourage you to ask yourself those career questions regularly. Any good financial advisor will encourage you to look at your stock portfolio and reevaluate if your investments continue to be made in the right stocks. Similarly, it's helpful to regularly reevaluate if your career investments are being made in the right profession. These annual purchasing and supply management salary webinars and the accompanying reports from us here at the Next Level Purchasing Association are designed to help you evaluate your career investment, not only to ensure that the purchasing and supply management profession is delivering an acceptable return for you, but also to help you understand new opportunities for you to maximize the return you get out of your career. The data that you're about to consume in this webinar suggests that some purchasing and supply management professionals' investment in their careers are akin to depositing their life savings into a checking account. They put little effort into finding ways to increase their incomes, and as a result, they see meager salary growth. But it also suggests that the best, brightest, and most ambitious purchasing and supply management professionals are leveraging the many vehicles available to boost their income growth dramatically. Perhaps by constructing a portfolio of the salary boosting characteristics that we'll reveal in this webinar, you can give your paycheck the upward trajectory that a hot stock would have. What are those salary boosting characteristics? Well, we'll reveal more than ever in this webinar, and we'll get started revealing those in just a moment. But first, just a few explanatory things that we must share before we dig into those details. Now, all of the data that are used in this webinar were gathered in a survey of purchasing and supply management professionals. Over 1,600 purchasing and supply management professionals from all around the world participated in this survey of salaries in the profession. Their responses were collected in early 2017. And because this is the Next Level Purchasing Association's 7th salary report, we are able to track salary trends over time and will continue to do so in the future. This webinar is being attended by purchasing and supply management professionals in many, many countries. Unfortunately, it is not practical to publish the monetary values expressed in this webinar in each attendees' home currency. Therefore, we're going to use US dollars. If you wish to convert the currency values into your home currency, you can find a currency converter at www.xe.com. That's www.x as in X-ray, E as in echo.com. xe.com. All salaries will be expressed as annual figures. Salaries were analyzed 16 ways, and we're going to look at these. Overall average salary, salaries by continent, salaries by supervisory status, salaries by title, salaries by education level, salaries by years of experience, salaries by certification status, salaries by industry, salaries by company size, salaries by gender, salaries by categories purchased, salaries by positions point of entry, salaries by organizational structure, salaries by percentage of travel. We'll look at salaries versus non-monetary benefits, and we'll look at bonuses. These 16 analyses, which are up from 14 of last year, form the 16 primary sections of this webinar. In these sections, I will share some formal statistics gathered from our research. However, where I think we add value is how we stretch beyond just sharing data alone in order to help you truly understand how the numbers got to be where they are. In the process of doing so, we often discover some surprising and shocking things. So in addition to mere statistics, we'll share our personal observations so that you can gain an even greater understanding of all the factors that influence salaries. I hope that you are as excited to consume this data as we were to prepare it. I hope that it guides you to focus on actions that you can take to maximize the return on your career investment. Now, if this report was a stock exchange, right now would be ringing the ceremonial opening bell. So imagine that ding-a-ling-a-linging sound as we get started with this year's Purchasing and Supply Management Salaries webinar. The first section of our webinar today is the average purchasing and supply management salary. And this is the same section that has kicked off all 7 salary webinars and reports that we've issued thus far. Some people just want to get to the point and hear that one big number, either the average salary or the year-to-year growth of the average salary. So we respect that and put it up front. However, usually that one big number has a lot of data and explanations behind it and can be misleading if interpreted incorrectly. So for the rest of you, we'll provide a full analysis in the remaining sections of this webinar. Most of the purchasing and supply management salary reports that we've seen limit their research to a single country and publish an average salary for that country. Not us. The Next Level Purchasing Association is a global organization with members all around the world. So our average salary is a global average, and it's likely to differ from the average salary in your country. That's one of the reasons we encourage you to consume the entire webinar and the entire report that will accompany it, not just one section. So what is the average purchasing and supply management salary? Well, I'll reveal that in just a moment. First, another tidbit from stock market investing. In investing, there's something called a bull market. According to Investopedia.com, a bull market is a financial market of a group of securities in which prices are rising or expected to rise. It goes on to say that bull markets are characterized by optimism, investor confidence, and expectations that strong results should continue. The U.S. stock market has been considered to be in a bull market of late. Could the market for purchasing and supply management professionals be considered to be in a bull market this year? Well, this year's statistics suggest that it could. Let's take a look at some average salary statistics. The average purchasing and supply management salary is $63,358. That makes this year's average salary an all-time high. It also means that the profession has seen an 18.1% growth in the past year. Now let's take a look at this chart. And let's note the interesting trajectory of purchasing and supply management salaries when graphed against the Dow Jones Industrial Average, an index representative of the U.S. stock market. Notice the ending curve of each of the lines in that chart. The increase in purchasing and supply management salaries is much sharper than that of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. At the NLPA, we think that the 18.1% increase in purchasing and supply management salaries that this part of the curve represents could be a bit misleading if analyzed alone. We think that the next section on salaries by continent will shed additional light on whether or not we are truly in such an apparently strong bull market for purchasing and supply management professionals. So let's ask the question, what effect on salaries does international economics have? Well, as indicated in that first section, the average purchasing and supply management salary reflects a global average. Because economic conditions differ dramatically between geographies, you probably would value salary numbers more if they were specific to your region. Well, you're in luck. In this section, we'll break down average salaries by continent. If you found our global average or the degree or direction of change in the global average to be inapplicable to salaries in your region, this section will give you a more accurate gauge of what's going on with the salaries in your part of the world. While each year we've done this salary report, we've uncovered several shocking statistics, and this year is no exception. Possibly the most shocking statistic this year is the percentage increase in the average purchasing and supply management salary. That 18.1% increase is the highest we have ever seen. Now, with our expertise, we think that the explanation is not as simple as purchasing and supply management paychecks getting larger. We consider the most prominent reason for this huge statistical spike to be the fact that salary information was and has been collected and is and has been expressed in U.S. dollars. And many other currencies had some interesting changes over the past year, past couple of years with regard to comparison with the U.S. dollar. Other currencies materially weakened versus the U.S. dollar in 2015 and then stabilized in 2016. The 2015 weakening actually caused the average salary to decrease from 2015 to 2016, and then the 2016 stabilization resulted in this year's average salary expressed in U.S. dollars to normalize. So is the salary growth we are reporting as good of news as it would seem? Well, when we look at two-year growth, we see a 9.3% growth rate from 2015 to 2017. This is good news. While it shows that it may not be the beefiest of bull markets for purchasing and supply management professionals, it's certainly stronger than a mere recovery. And knowing that the exchange rate effect we saw last year is largely out of the equation when we look at the two-year growth pattern, you can get a boost of confidence in your purchasing and supply management career investment. So this next table will illustrate the average purchasing and supply management salary on each continent. This table enables you to evaluate the strength of purchasing and supply management salaries in your corner of the world. In our view, all continents exhibited strength and stability in average salaries. So going from lowest to highest expressed in U.S. dollars, we see South America having the lowest average salary at about $46,000, Africa being nearly $48,000, Asia being slightly over $52,000, Europe at $59,000. Those are all pretty packed together, and then a pretty significant jump going from Europe to North America, which is now slightly over $80,000, and another jump to Australia, Oceania, which is over $147,000. Now let's ponder our next question. Would I get paid more to supervise others? Thus far, we have looked at purchasing and supply management salaries as one big number, even as we broke them down by continent. Yet not all purchasing and supply management jobs are equivalent. Therefore, some further distinctions need to be made to ensure that job function is considered in reporting average salaries. The most basic way to segment job functions is simply to compare salaries for supervisory positions to salaries for non-supervisory positions. And the results illustrated in this table make it clear that aspiring to a management position is a path to higher compensation. We see that overall, non-supervisors make slightly over $51,000, and supervisors make on average $67,323. In North America, we also see a gap. Average non-supervisors make $61,586, and average supervisors, which include anyone that has individuals reporting to them, make an average of $94,217. Outside of North America, those with non-supervisory positions earn slightly over $30,000, where those with supervisory responsibilities make $55,387. Now, that's pretty basic, just dividing salaries up into supervisory and non-supervisory. But you may ask, what about salaries for multiple levels? While in small companies, purchasing and supply management departments may be segmented simply into supervisory positions and non-supervisory positions, larger companies often have many layers of management. Therefore, for salary benchmarking purposes, it is even more helpful to segment average purchasing and supply management salaries into discrete positions. There are countless titles used to describe various purchasing and supply management positions. Please note that we had to limit our position titles somehow. So we limited them to 5 in the table that you'll see in a minute, and we applied some consolidation logic into that limitation. So for example, junior buyers, they include positions like expediters, junior buyers, etc., and other similar positions. Buyers, the buyer position includes buyers, purchasing agents, procurement specialists, sourcing specialists, and so on. Purchasing managers include those with the title of purchasing manager, supply manager, sourcing manager, and similar titles. Purchasing director includes director of purchasing, directors of procurement, directors of supply chain, directors of sourcing. And purchasing executive encompass folks with titles like vice president of purchasing, vice president of procurement, vice president of supply chain, vice president of sourcing, chief procurement officer, chief purchasing officer, chief supply chain officer, and similar. So when we apply that logic, here's how salaries break down by title. So overall, including everyone in the world, junior buyers make an average of $21,260. Buyers make an average of $49,164. Purchasing managers make an average of $64,365. Purchasing directors make an average of $84,029. And purchasing executives make an average of $125,420. And we have this broken down on your screen for you also by those titles in North America, as well as those titles outside of North America. And consistently across the board, we see North American salaries being higher than salaries outside of North America for each of those positions. I'll give you guys a second or two to take a look at that chart and digest the numbers in it before we move on. Okay, next question is, does a college education pay off? A college and or university education consumes a great deal of two resources, time and money. Is it an investment that pays off? And if getting a bachelor's degree is a good investment, does that mean that advanced degrees are even better investments? Well, this next table provides some insights into those types of questions by illustrating the average purchasing and supply management salaries for individuals who have completed various education levels. So just looking at the overall column, which includes no specific geography, it includes all geographies, those people with a high school or less education make an average of $54,588. Purchasing professionals with an associate's degree earn an average of $57,017. Purchasing and supply management professionals with bachelor's degrees make $64,058 on average a year. And those with a master's degree and above make an average salary of $68,904. And as you can see on your screen, we have that broken down by inside North America and outside North America. And, you know, clearly more education translates to higher salaries, but education isn't free. So you have to decide, you know, is it worth it investing in a college or university education in order to get those higher salaries? Your answer is a personal answer. It may be yes, it may be no. Certainly price tags of universities, university degrees are quite steep, and whether it pays off in your salary, whether you get return on investment fast enough is really up to your personal decision making. Alrighty, let's ponder another question. That question is, does more experience mean higher pay? One would think that experience would count tremendously in the field of purchasing and supply management. Much of what makes a difference in the profession has to be learned rather than formed through common sense. How you apply what you learned during those years for real-world results likely has a bigger influence on your ability to bump up your salary than simply time. However, the influence on salary that the number of years of experience you have cannot be ignored. The number of years of experience is often used as a minimum in determining one's ability to qualify for a higher level and higher paying purchasing and supply management position. Unfortunately, in an investment sense, experience is like a certificate of deposit. You have to wait for it to increase your value. Regardless, if you have been in purchasing and supply management for a while, you would probably like to see your salary going in the same direction as your number of years. And if you're new to purchasing and supply management, you probably want to gauge how bright of a future you have in the profession if you stick around. In either case, the data illustrated in this table should make you happy. So just looking at the overall column, if you have between 0 and 2 years of experience, your average salary in purchasing and supply management will be $35,990. Those with 3 to 5 years of experience earn an average of $52,256. Those with 6 to 10 years of experience earn an average of $54,500. Those with between 11 and 20 years of experience earn an average of $65,489. And at the top tier, those with 21 plus years of experience earn an average of $82,151. And as you can see on your screen, we have those results expressed for purchasing and supply management professionals in North America, as well as those outside of North America. So I will give you guys a couple of seconds to digest or to identify where your salary benchmark would be on this screen. And so take a few seconds to do so and decide whether or not you feel good about how well you're paid for your number of years of experience. Worth noting is that the salary of someone with over 20 years of experience in North America is less than double that of a new entrant to the profession, whereas the difference outside of North America is more than 5 times. We always double-check notable differences, and we can report that this dramatic difference between new entrants and veterans in the profession outside of North America is consistent with results from past years. Perhaps in the United States or North America in general, we have a pretty high standard of living, even as young professionals. And as a result, you get paid pretty well right out of the gate. And perhaps outside of North America, the standard of living is lower, and people with less experience expect to make less and then work their way up to higher salaries. So pretty interesting stuff. The next question we'll ponder is, by how much does certification impact salary? If you're a purchasing and supply management professional who's been around for a little while and has some ambition, you've probably asked at some point, is it worth it for me to pursue a certification? Should I do that? I see other people doing it. Should I aspire to be on their same level? Well, the statistics in the preceding two tables imply that more education and more experience equate to more value for the employer. The natural conclusion is that the more educated, more experienced individuals can make more significant contributions to the employer and thus are worth more compensation. However, another factor impacts the capabilities of purchasing and supply management professionals, whether or not they have earned a certification in the field. Additional statistics gathered during the survey illuminate the fact that those who have earned the SPSM certification earn significantly more than their non-certified peers. And while the financial benefit to employers for developing the skills of their employees through certification has been well documented in previous NLPA reports, the individuals who become certified stand to gain as well. The survey revealed that those who have earned the SPSM certification have an average annual salary that is $13,183 higher than those who have not earned a purchasing certification. Additionally, purchasing and supply management professionals who have earned a higher level certification in the SPSM family of certifications, those include SPSM2, SPSM3, have an average annual salary that is $18,145 more than those who have not earned a purchasing certification. So for anyone that feels that purchasing and supply management salary isn't exactly rallying, certification seems to be one of the most powerful ways to kickstart your own personal salary bull market. Unlike years of experience, which requires time to pass, and getting a higher level position, which requires an employer to make such a position available, certification is something within the direct control of the purchasing and supply management professional. In other words, in the direct control of you. Additionally, it is generally less costly and quicker to earn than an undergraduate or graduate degree from a university. One other point I'll mention here is that these are annual salaries. So, if you kick up your annual salary by $13,000, that's just 1 year. And hopefully you will earn more every year beyond that. But even if you just kicked up your salary by $13,000 in 1 year, you're still going to be higher in the next year. So that's $26,000 more that you'll earn. A year after that, that'll be a cumulative total of $39,000. A year after that, cumulative total of $52,000. You can see that that is going to add up significantly over time for what is a pretty modest investment in time and enrollment fees, but produces such amazing results that compound themselves year after year after year. I mean, I have seen several examples of where employers, just based on an employee achieving the SPSM certification, getting an instant $25,000 raise. That's not an exaggeration. Those are real life results. Of course, results will vary from company to company and individual to individual, but statistically, we see that certification results in a huge boost in earning potential. All right, let's move on to our next question, and that is, which industries pay the most and least? You know, as you're looking at these salaries, you may be saying, I make a heck of a lot more than that, or you may saying, I don't make nearly that much. Well, the value of a stock depends on both internal and external factors. The internal factors include the number of years the company has been in business, training of the people in the key roles, the amount of cash the company has available, etc. The external factors include consumer demand, competition, regulations, etc. Similarly, there are internal and external factors influencing purchasing and supply management salaries. While the preceding three sections clearly demonstrate that the characteristics of the salary earner, that is, the internal factors, strongly influence compensation, the survey revealed that the power of the environment, that is, the external factors on salaries, cannot be ignored. The first external factor is the industry in which the purchasing and supply management professional works. And I am going to show you the table of the top 5 industries. This year's top paying industry for purchasing and supply management professionals was oil and petroleum, with an average salary of $98,081. Second place went to software providers. Third place to scientific research and development. Third place for appliance manufacturing companies. And then fifth place to hotels. Now let's take a look at the bottom 5 industries. Fifth from last was medical providers at $43,345, followed by cigarette manufacturing companies, warehouse and storage companies, religious and professional organizations, and in last place, accounting services companies that paid an average purchasing and supply management salary of merely $21,466. So that's quite a range, and in the report that I'll tell you about later, we have dozens of industry salaries listed that you can take a look at. Now, it's fascinating to note that the average salary in the top industry is nearly 5 times larger than the average salary in the bottom industry. Again, we investigate any differences that appear to be massive to our eyes, and this top industry to bottom industry gap is consistent with what we've found in the past, suggesting that the industry that you're in has a significant impact on the salary that you are able to earn. So that is significant, but industry alone does not tell the whole story. You know, there's a range of companies and a range of different sized companies within just about any industry. So the next question is, do bigger companies pay more to compete for talent? Take a second to ponder that. Well, I have a guess what your guess is, but we'll, of course, back it up with statistics. Now, the industry was not the only external factor influencing salaries. Obviously, the size of the employer can make a big difference. The research that we've done in each year that we've been doing this report has historically proven that purchasing and supply management professionals working for large organizations make more money than their peers in smaller organizations. Now, there is no universally accepted definition of small company or large company, so we somewhat arbitrarily selected $1 billion in annual revenue as the demarcation point that separates large organizations from small organizations for our past reports. For consistency, we will use that same demarcation point this year. Again, we found that there is indeed a salary premium paid by larger organizations. This table illustrates the differences in average purchasing and supply management salaries between large and small organizations. We have it broken down overall in North America and outside of North America. As you can see, overall, the average purchasing and supply management salary for small companies is $59,707, and for big companies, it is $92,266. Now, the next question we'll explore is there still a fight for gender equality in pay? Well, in each of the last 5 years, we have compared female salaries to male salaries in the field of purchasing and supply management. We did that again this year, and the story is annoyingly the same. Female purchasing and supply management professionals continue to be paid less than their male counterparts in 2017, and that's illustrated in this table here. Overall, females earned an average of $58,203, while male purchasing and supply management professionals earned an average of $66,239. That's true in North America as well, where females purchasing and supply management professionals make $68,014 on average compared to their male counterparts who make $93,974, and that gap exists outside of North America as well. Now, in last year's report, we explored some different angles of researching the gender inequality in purchasing and supply management, and we found that women were disadvantaged in advancement opportunity also, and that, quote, even when women do advance in purchasing and supply management, their salaries lag those of men who to an even greater degree, unquote. Despite all of the equality-related disappointing statistics we reported on last year, we found one potentially encouraging statistic. And that statistic showed that last year, and unlike any other age group, millennial-aged female purchasing and supply management professionals earned more than their millennial-aged male counterparts in that survey sample. And we promise to continue to monitor this development in future editions of the report. Well, investing, there's a saying, 1 number is a dot, 2 is a line, 3 is a trend. This means that a stock price, or really any other value, is determined at one point in time, and that represents that value at that time. Even if you determine the stock price or value at 2 different points in time, that merely represents a one-time movement. It's only until you have at least 3 values from 3 different points in time that you can even begin to call something a trend. So even what we researched this year cannot determine if the youngest generation in the workforce is trending towards gender equality. The best we can do is determine if what we found this year is consistent with what we found last year. And unfortunately, it is not. Among this year's respondents, we found that gender inequality seems to exist in the millennial generation as well. This table illustrates purchasing and supply management salaries by gender, by age in North America. Again, in future years, we will continue to research to determine if any generation moves towards gender equality faster than the others. But, you know, even millennial aged purchasing and supply management professionals, those between age 20 and 29, we see a salary gap. Females in North America, $50,224 average salary compared to a male purchasing and supply management professional average salary of $60,441. So even beyond millennials, we see in the Gen X crowd, which is between 30 and 39 and between 40 and 49, a gap exists. Also between 50 and 59 category and the 60-plus category, males consistently make more than females, and that's truly disappointing. And every year we do this research, we earnestly hope to see that gap close and close permanently. But for the sake of reporting, we find that it continues to exist. It shouldn't exist. Unfortunately, it does. Okay, moving on from that, let's ask another question. Does what I buy affect what I earn? Now, one thing that drives investors crazy is a stock's erratic performance. There are stocks that seem like they should go up in value, but inexplicably go down. There are others that rise and fall at a rate unlike the market. Stock prices move constantly, and as such, they are a moving target. I mean, if they were easy to predict, we'd all be rich, right? Well, if there is a salary statistic that seems to drive us a little bit crazy, it is salaries by category purchased, more specifically direct goods and services versus indirect goods and services. We define direct goods and services as those materials, products, or outsourced labor that get incorporated into the final product or service that the downstream customer purchases. Indirect goods and services are essentially everything else, the goods and services that support an organization's operations but are not part of what their customers receive. The first year we analyzed salaries in this fashion, we found that salaries were slightly higher across the board for buyers of indirect goods and services. Last year, we found the same thing to be true, except for large organizations in North America where salaries were higher for buyers of direct goods and services. This year, we found results similar to the first year, except that buyers of direct goods and services outside of North America had higher average salaries than buyers of indirect goods and services outside of North America. Now, watching the erratic results for this particular set of statistics over multiple years leads us to conclude that category purchase isn't as likely to have as strong an influence over salaries as other characteristics that we've studied. For example, we've seen consistently big gaps in salaries by industry, and we're not seeing those types of big gaps happening with regard to categories purchased. Of course, we'll continue to study this over additional years and look at the data from different perspectives in an attempt to discern patterns. You can see our findings for salaries by category purchased in this table, where we see indirect having a slight lead over direct overall, and the lead for indirect a bit larger in North America, but then outside of North America, a very slight lead for buyers of direct goods and services. So this one drives us crazy. We're not ashamed to admit that we're not seeing a correlation here. I think that it strengthens the effect or the impact of how we report the effect of things that do consistently have a greater and more predictable impact on purchasing and supply management salaries. Our next question is, do outsiders get better offers? Now, if you've read our purchasing and supply management salary reports in the past, you know that we at the Next Level Purchasing Association like to research salaries in unconventional ways and develop our own unconventional statistics. One of our unique unconventional statistics that's been around for a few years now is called salaries by position's point of entry. Now, what the heck does that mean, right? Well, if you've ever wondered if you would make more money by being promoted within your own organization or switching to a new employer, this section may shed some light on that question for you. We asked respondents to indicate how they got to their current position. Were they promoted from within or recruited from another company? Because the junior buyer and buyer positions are generally entry-level positions, we focused our analysis on manager and above positions. And what we found was insanely interesting. We found that purchasing and supply management professionals who were recruited from other organizations made substantially more money than those that were promoted from within. So take a few seconds to look at this chart, or this table, which compares average salaries if you were promoted from within or recruited from the outside. And you'll see that those who were recruited from the outside make more money. Okay, let's move on to our next question, and that is, does a purchasing department's organizational structure make a difference in salaries? Well, another characteristic of our salary reports is that every year we have at least one, quote unquote, initial public offering of a new method of slicing and dicing purchasing and supply management salaries. Last year's IPO was for salaries by organizational structure, and it's back again this year. Salaries by organizational structure ponders the question, who makes more? Purchasing and supply management professionals in a centralized procurement organizational structure or those in a decentralized procurement organizational structure? For clarity, we define centralized procurement as a procurement organization where the staff is located at corporate headquarters and is responsible for buying for multiple business units. It includes center-led procurement departments that serve multiple business units through activities like contracting, developing policies, implementing technologies, and the like, even if they do not place orders for those business units. We define decentralized procurement as a procurement organization where the staff is dispersed among multiple business units with each buyer buying only for his or her business unit. As we expected, and true in both years, purchasing and supply management professionals in a centralized structure make more than those in a decentralized structure. Interestingly, the delta between the two is much, much larger this year. Like we said before, it takes 3 data points to make a trend, so next year we'll see if this great divide is even greater. The results are illustrated in this table. We see overall, centralized purchasing and supply management professionals make an average of $65,339, and decentralized purchasing and supply management professionals make an average of $47,466. Our next question is a new question we've asked for the first time this year, and that's, do those who travel more get paid more? So now this is this year's initial public offering of new purchasing and supply management salary finding. Actually, we have 2 quote-unquote initial public offerings this year. This first one relates to how travel requirements impact purchasing and supply management salaries. Over the past 2 decades, purchasing and supply management has become an increasingly global function. Once reserved for only the profession's leaders, now most large organizations do a healthy amount of international purchasing. With today's global nature of the profession, purchasing and supply management professionals are traveling more than ever, some more so than others. And, you know, traveling can often be very difficult, be a very energy-consuming activity. So are you compensated for it? You know, and global buying, where you have to travel to, you know, far-flung facilities across the world, that may be more critical and more challenging than domestic purchasing. So are you compensated for the challenge? Well, out of curiosity and our excitement to provide you with more salary statistics than ever, we wanted to ask the question, did purchasing and supply management professionals who travel more make more money? Well, we found that the definitive answer is yes. Take a look at this table for details on how much more is made by purchasing and supply management professionals who travel more. The more that you travel, the more that you make, and our biggest category this year was over 50% time spent traveling or working out of town, and that's average salary $67,285 compared to a salary for those who barely travel at all, about $10,000 less. All right, next question is, how does salary relate to non-monetary benefits? So not content with merely meeting our own aggressive standard of one new quote-unquote initial public offering of salary data each year, we have the second IPO this year. This second IPO begins our multi-year examination of how salaries are affected by non-monetary benefits. In this section, we wanted to begin exploring employer psychology behind the relationship between salary and non-monetary benefits. We wanted to know, do employers think that generous non-monetary benefits can make up for a low salary? Or do employers think that a high salary can make up for stingy non-monetary benefits? Or is there a direct correlation between degree of salary generosity and degree of non-monetary benefit generosity? Well, in this first year, we kept it simple. This year, we looked at just one non-monetary benefit, flexible work hours. And looking at just that one factor has made it seem like the answers to the 3 preceding questions were no, no, and yes, suggesting that there is a direct correlation between the degree of salary generosity and the degree of non-monetary benefit generosity. In other words, if you get a bigger salary, you're more likely to get more and nicer non-monetary benefits as well. And the opposite is true. Purchasing and supply management professionals who do not have the benefit of flexible work hours also made less money than their peers who do have flexible work hours. You can see the statistical results in this table. And in future years, we will add other non-monetary benefits to our research to further explore correlations with salaries. Now, we're coming up on the hour mark for this webinar, so I'm going to speed things along so that we'll have time to take at least a few questions. And so our final question that we've explored is how many of us get bonuses and how much? It's become somewhat of a tradition to close our salary reports in these webinars with one last topic that always seems to draw some of the strongest interest from purchasing and supply management professionals: bonuses. Earlier in this webinar, we mentioned that it appears that purchasing and supply management salaries are in a bull market. Well, this final section on bonuses further strengthens that finding. Both the percentage of purchasing and supply management professionals receiving a bonus and the average bonus amounts hit record highs this year. 41% of purchasing and supply management professionals receive a bonus, and that's up from the previous all-time high of 35% in 2015. Now, if you're curious, last year's percentage slid to 28%, which was the same percent that we saw in 2014. The average bonus received by a purchasing and supply management professional has reached $7,690, and that's up from last year's figure of $7,120. This was the third year that we investigated the reasons that purchasing and supply management professionals get bonuses. Consistent with previous years, we found that individual cost savings was among the least common bases for a purchasing and supply management professional to get a bonus, something that still surprises us each time that it's revealed by our research. Now, the bases on which bonuses were awarded, ranked from most common to least common, are illustrated in this table on your screen. Please note that respondents could select as many of the bases as applied to them because some organizations base their bonuses on multiple factors. And note that not all respondents received a bonus, and so therefore the sum of respondents in that column will not equal the total number of participants in the survey. So as you can see, overall company performance, the biggest factor; individual performance other than cost savings, second highest factor; overall purchasing and supply management department performance was third. The last of the named reasons, individual cost savings performance, was there, and then other was in the far last. So, in summing up this 7th annual salary report and webinar from the Next Level Purchasing Association, the research team here feels that we have done a fairly thorough job of providing you with the statistics to determine how well your investment in your purchasing and supply management career is paying off. We also feel that we have uncovered many ways that you can improve the return on your investment. But this webinar is not so much about data alone. The value of this webinar and the report that is associated with it ultimately will be determined by how you use it to support your decisions. Hopefully, you will be inspired to add to your portfolio of salary boosting characteristics that result in greater personal prosperity. Those decisions may be to aspire to a higher salary for yourself, or to offer a more competitive salary to the prospective employees you are recruiting, or even to stay in the profession when you might have been considering a change. Because careers can be decades in length, we hope that this webinar and this information is valuable for helping you identify the fast growth career opportunities, as well as opportunities that pay off over a longer term investment horizon. So, in closing out the presentation portion of today's webinar, let me wish you the most rewarding purchasing and supply management career possible, measured in terms of not just the financial appreciation on your investment, but also how much you appreciate the exciting work that you do. So I'm going to turn things back over to Megan for questions, and to submit your questions to Megan, who will read them to me, please turn your attention to the corner of your WebEx console. There you'll see a Q&A section with an area for you to type in your question. Type in your question, hit the send button, and that will submit your question to Megan. She will read them aloud, and I will answer them. And Megan, I would say we have about 5 minutes for questions. I could stay online till about 12:35 Eastern.
Sounds good, Charles. Well, the first question we have in is from Sandy, one of our longtime NLPA members. Sandy asked if past experience in international purchasing or sourcing were considered as factors taken into account in this survey.
Let me make sure I understand the question, since I don't have the text in front of me. So past experience in global sourcing.
So having experience in international purchasing or sourcing, was that taken into consideration in the
No,
survey?
that was not one of the factors that we studied this year, but certainly anyone that's familiar with our salary reports know that we add new stuff every year, and I think that is a fantastic thing to study next year.
Great. We did have a request to go back to slide 3, if you can, real fast, for the average purchasing and supply management salary.
Okay, I'm going to go to that for a second. There's one thing I do want to acknowledge first, and that is I mentioned this year's report, and this is how you get it. You log into the Next Level Purchasing website, nextlevelpurchasing.com, log in with your username and password, then in the members area, click on the library tab. Even if you don't have access to the full library, you will have access to the report. So I do want to mention that before I go back to the third slide. That's how you get the report. I encourage you to download that. Also wanted to mention that another question that's common is, how can I earn the SPSM certification and qualify for a higher salary? That is a 3-step process: learn, prove, and apply. Step 1, learn. You complete 6 online courses via nextlevelpurchasing.com. Prove is step 2. That means passing the SPSM exam, also online. And 3, apply. You submit your application. And then also, you're encouraged to apply what you've learned in the workplace so that you can deliver the results that result in a higher salary. To learn more about that, you can go on to the homepage of the Next Level Purchasing website. And right there, you see the SPSM certification information. Download an info guide. Do that today. So, all right, now, after I've gotten those slides out of the way, let me flip back to the third slide. And what one was that, Megan?
It's the overall average.
The overall average, okay. All right, we're getting close. All right. I decided to use an animated slide template for this, and that makes changing slides a little bit slower than usual. So hopefully we will be able to get there quickly. All right, while we're waiting for my computer to catch up, I can certainly tell you what that average salary is. And this year's average salary, which again is all throughout the world, is $63,358. And yeah, my computer just does not want to catch up. Oops, there
it is.
Hopefully, no more questions that require going back to another slide. Again, folks, if we went past the table too quick, download that report that I just explained how to get it from the library, and that will enable you to have all of those tables that you can look at as long as you want. So yeah, we can move on to the next question now.
All right, Susan has a very similar question to Sandy. Another thing that we may want to look at a future report. She asked if we had any stats on the number of employees that telecommute versus working in an office, and do we see a trend towards working from home?
I agree with you, Megan. I think that'd be a great study for next year. Let me think what we do have. I'm going to take screen sharing off. Well, no, it'll take me too long to find the spreadsheet. We did take a look at the percentage of folks that have flexible work hours versus those that don't. But I don't have that statistic. But we didn't take a look at telecommuting. But certainly something that we will look at statistically next year. And you know, I can tell by observation, just interacting with procurement professionals all the time, that telecommuting is certainly becoming more and more common, and I expect the statistics to back that up next year.
Great. Looks like that's all of the time we had for questions today. Thank you, Charles, for another great year of procurement salary information, and I think it's a lot to digest for our members. So everybody take a chance to download that report, and the whole reason behind the report is to help you identify what you can do to increase your salary. So we hope that everybody takes action at least one step from what they've learned today. So thank you again, Charles, and I hope that we will see all of our members on a future NLPA webinar.
Thanks, Megan, and good day, everyone.